Hey, ear, in a nutshell. Unless it is absolutely necessary for a personal protection, one should never ask what others are saying about him. Sinful inquiries. In the previous segment, we learned that although one may protect himself upon hearing a report that someone is trying to harm him, he may not believe any negative information as fact. All he may do is take precautions on the chance that the report is true. Chofetz Chaim continues. From this, you can see how foolish many people are, for they are in the habit of always asking others, so, what did so-and-so say about me? They do this even though they know that this information has no bearing on the future. When the person declines to tell them what the speaker said, they pressure him a lot until he finally reveals it. They are told that the person spoke of them in a derogatory way, and they accept this information as absolute fact, and through this, the two become bitter enemies. The page is too short to list the general destructiveness and the many sins that result from such behavior. Understand well, it is forbidden to accept Loshon Hara or Hilchos as fact, even if someone offers the information on his own and the information is irrelevant for the future. In such a case, the Torah commands that we take precautions on the chance that the information is true, but not to believe it as fact. When it is not relevant for the future, we are not even permitted to listen to it. Certainly, it is forbidden to stand over someone and pressure him until the speaker sins by relating Hilchos and the listener sins by listening and accepting it. Someone who does this is a chote umachti, one who sins and induces others to sin. Therefore, one has to stay very, very distant from seeking such information unless he is certain that it is relevant for the future so that he will know how to protect himself from the speaker. A person may wonder, what can I do if I worry that someone is talking about me behind my back? Even if I know that his words cannot cause me any actual harm, I still want to know if he's speaking against me. I actually lose sleep at night, wondering what he might be saying. And the only way I can find this out is by convincing those who know him to tell me whether or not he talks about me. A person who is truly devoted to serving Hashem and who knows that his path of life is correct will not worry what others might be saying about him. Two famous brothers, great Talmidim of the Vilna Gaon, Rav Chaim and Rav Zalman of Loshon, were once traveling when they stopped at an inn for the night. The innkeeper was extremely insulting, and the two strangers, unaware that he was speaking to two of the greatest tzaddikim of the generation. Later, Rav Chaim found Rav Zalman weeping. Zalman, he said, "Why are you crying? Who cares what the man said?" "Chaim, my brother, I am crying because at the moment when he was hurling insults, I felt that it was bothering me a bit. I yearn to attain a level where insults will not bother me at all." In a nutshell, unless it is absolutely necessary for personal protection, one may never ask what others are saying about him. Vav ir, in a nutshell, not giving others the benefit of the doubt is a prime cause of speaking or accepting Hilchos, the wrong approach. The Thursday night clan made their way to the school auditorium for their weekly get-together each week. They would sit and watch a famous Talmid Chacham deliver a shiur on the weekly parsha that was beamed via satellite. Tonight, they had convinced a few friends to join them for what was sure to be another informative, fascinating evening. To everyone's shock and dismay, the auditorium was locked. Someone went to find Greg, the school custodian. "Greg, could you please open the auditorium? The weekly program is going to start in only 5 minutes." "Sorry, young fella, I'm not opening it. Rabbi Berman said he don't want you guys using the auditorium no more. And what Rabbi Berman says goes. Good night." The boys were furious. "Why does it bother Rabbi Berman if we watch a shiur?" One of the newcomers asked. "Who knows?" A regular to the shiur replied. Maybe he doesn't like the speaker, or maybe he just wants to save money on electricity. Chofetz Chaim has already informed us that often when a person speaks or accepts Loshon Hara, he transgresses the mitzvah, b'tzedek tishpat amisecha, judge your fellow favorably, which requires us to give others the benefit of the doubt. In today's segment, we learned that this applies to the sin of believing Hilchos as well. Often, people believe Hilchos and feel bitterness towards the one who allegedly has caused them harm, because they failed to judge the person favorably. In our example, the students cannot think of any valid reason why the principal would deprive them of an activity that was educational and informative. Perhaps they overlooked something. The previous week, one of the group decided to celebrate his birthday at the Thursday night get-together. He came with a large pot of cholent, assorted cakes and soda. The boys ate the food as they sat enjoying the shiur. When the shiur ended, they left behind dirty bowls and cups and a couple of benches in need of cleaning. This is why this was the second time this had happened. Rabbi Berman was not planning to cancel the shiur permanently. He wanted the boys to apologize and to assure him that this would not happen again. If they would have approached him to ask why the auditorium was closed, he would have been happy to explain to them. Had the boys thought of their obligation to be done l'kav zchus, they would have said to one another, if Rabbi Berman locked the auditorium, he must have a good reason. Let's try to think of what we could have done wrong. It probably would not have taken them too long to figure it out. And what if someone has already believed the Hilchos and now has thoughts of tshuva? Says the Chofetz Chaim, he can correct his sins by strengthening himself to purge the information from his heart so that he no longer believes it. If he finds it difficult to believe that the speaker fabricated the information, then he should tell himself perhaps the speaker added or deleted a detail or omitted a few words. That would have put a positive spin on things. Or perhaps he should have repeated the perpetrator's statement in a different tone, which would have changed it from negative to positive. The listener should accept upon himself to refrain from accepting Loshon Hara or Hilchos about any Jew, and he should confess his sins before Hashem. All of the above will serve to correct his sin, provided that he did not repeat the information to anyone else. Again, in a nutshell, not giving others the benefit of the doubt is a prime cause of speaking or accepting Hilchos. Zayin, in a nutshell, we are not permitted to believe Hilchos even when it is related in public or in the subject's presence, and he remains silent. A wicked trade. Does anyone know why the air conditioning is off when it's 90 degrees outside? Gabi wanted to know. Yes, replied Tzvi, in a loud voice that could be heard throughout the large company office. The boss is trying to save money and he doesn't care if we all pass out from heat exhaustion and dehydration. From different parts of the office, grumbling could be heard. The boss doesn't care about us. He probably has a private air conditioner unit in his office. He doesn't care if everyone else is sweltering as long as he's comfortable. Sure, he wants to save money. His daughter is engaged and he needs to throw one of those $100,000 affairs. I guess he's going to pay for it by cutting expenditures in the office. The next day, every employee found a note in his memo box. To my dear devoted workers, my deepest apologies for what happened yesterday with the air conditioning. I want you to know that I discovered the problem on Sunday and paid a repair company double the usual fee to come in on the weekend to fix the problem. However, a part was needed that had to be shipped from out of state. The part first arrived last night, and the repairs were made during the night. Once again, my humble apologies. Tzvi's outburst, which angered his co-workers and left them with bad feelings towards the boss, was Hilchos. They should have not believed Tzvi's words, despite the fact that he said them publicly for all except his boss to hear. The fact that someone makes a forbidden statement in public does not give anyone the right to believe it. What if Tzvi was the company manager for the last 40 years? was the boss's first cousin, and therefore was certain that he would never get fired. This would allow the scenario to be played out differently. Everyone was sweltering in the heat when the door of the boss's private office opened, and the man himself stepped out. "My, it's hot out here," he said, looking a bit embarrassed. "What do you care?" Tzvi shot back. "As long as the air conditioner in your office is working, everything is fine. You treat your workers like slaves, and if one or two passes out from heat exhaustion, it's no great loss. I told you a few days ago that something was wrong with the air conditioning, and you should call the service to come before it broke down in the midst of this heat wave. Well, you ignored my warning, and look what happened." The boss quickly returned to his office and closed the door. "He didn't answer me," said Tzvi, turning to his co-workers, "because everything I said is 100% true, and he knows it." The next morning, there was a note inside everybody's memo box. "To my dear devoted workers, my deepest apologies for what happened yesterday with the air conditioning. It is true that Tzvi did bring the matter to my attention a few days ago. Tzvi is not aware that I did call the repairman as soon as he alerted me of the problem. The service informed me that with the onset of the heat wave, they were overloaded with repair requests and could not get to our facility until tomorrow at the earliest. I offered to pay him twice the usual fee if they would come right away. But they said the money was not the issue. They simply did not have the manpower. I want you to know that I felt very guilty having my office air conditioning running while all of you were sweltering. I do not like publicizing my personal situation, but trust me that my current state of health makes it dangerous for me to be exposed to heat for too long. Once again, my deepest apologies." The fact that Tzvi's tirade was uttered in the boss's presence, and the boss did not respond, did not give anyone the right to believe it. The boss was probably too embarrassed. Chofetz Chaim points out that we are not permitted to believe Rechilus even when the speaker is relating it for our benefit, so that we can protect ourselves from future harm, and therefore is not sinning by relating it, assuming the report is accurate. We are permitted only to investigate the matter and take precautions on the chance that it might be true. In our example, Tzvi's tirade was clearly forbidden by halacha. Nothing was to be accomplished other than getting everyone angry at the boss. Tzvi did something sinful, and certainly his words should not be believed. Again, in a nutshell, we are not permitted to believe Rechilus even when it is related in public or in the subject's presence, and he remains silent. Ches ir, in a nutshell. We are never permitted to believe a Rechilus report related by a Gentile, even if the entire community is in an uproar and the subject of the report is silence. The enraged parts. Dear Chatzko, this is to inform you that our contract for your rental of the inn and its surrounding gardens is being terminated as of the end of this month. This means that by the last day of the month, you, your family, and all your belongings are to be off my property. I must say that I was shocked by the report I received this morning from Zeinville. He was kind enough to inform me that for the past 6 months, you have been running a liquor business on my property without informing me of this. Of course, you didn't inform me because had I known, I would have demanded a percentage of the profits. I'm shocked that after we have known each other for so many years, I have treated you so well, you would go and do this behind my back. Don't forget to drop off a check for any furniture that may have been broken during your use of the inn. Signed with great anger, the Poritz. Chatzko's fuming. That Zeinville, he's jealous that my inn has been doing so well while his business is failing. So he makes up a story about me. Chatzko's friends take up the cause. Soon they confront Zeinville and berate him for his slandering Chatzko. Zeinville remains silent with his head bowed, proof that the Poritz wrote the truth when he reported that Zeinville had spoken against Chatzko. Wrong, says the Chofetz Chaim. He points out that if Zeinville is innocent, he should say so. The Torah states, and you shall be guiltless before Hashem and Yisrael. If the Paritz's version of what happened is true, then Zainville is a moser and most despicable, sinful individual. His silence does seem to indicate that he is guilty. Nevertheless, we cannot be absolutely certain that he is guilty until we have proof. Zainville may have chosen to remain silent because he feels that no one will believe his denial, or that his denial will cause his accusers to say worse things about him. Therefore, even in such a case, we can only suspect that the Paritz's words might be true and take precautions for the future. In the meantime, everyone is obligated to accord Zainville every courtesy and service as if nothing had happened. This would be true even if 2 or more people report outside of Bezdin that they witnessed Zainville visiting the Paritz in the middle of the night. It would be true even if the 2 informed Chatzkel that they overheard Zainville telling the Paritz about the secret liquor business. Chatzkel cannot believe this report as fact, even if the entire community is in an uproar over the alleged dealings between the Paritz and Zainville. This may seem an impossible challenge for Chatzkel. His source of livelihood is being taken from him. The Paritz's accusations against him is absolutely false. And the entire town seems to be pointing an accusing finger at Zainville. One thing is certain. Only Hashem can help Chatzkel to find a new source of income that will allow him to provide for his family. The best way for Chatzkel to earn the siyata deshmaya that he needs is by faithfully adhering to the laws of Hilchos and not believing the terrible reports about a fellow Jew. Again, in a nutshell, we are never permitted to believe a Hilchos report related by a Gentile, even if the entire community is in an uproar and the subject of the report is silence. Test ear. In a nutshell, one cannot believe Hilchos even when it is related by someone whom he trusts implicitly. Those whom we trust. Chaim, you'll never believe what I overheard today in the grocery. Ezzy Feingold has also started marketing donuts, and he was trying to convince Mr. Fried to place a huge order. Sir, please, I don't want to hear. It makes no difference to me what Feingold does. Chaim, just wait till you hear what Feingold said. Mr. Fried, I know whose donuts you've been buying and you've been getting. Believe me, that stuff doesn't compare to what I have to offer. Besides, we use only natural ingredients, not the junk that that guy uses. Doesn't Feingold have some nerve? Chaim, I was so tempted to shout, "How dare you degrade my husband's mouth-watering products? Shame on you." Sarah, I know you mean well in telling me all this, but you shouldn't do it. Chaim, what do you mean? I'm just fulfilling my duty as a devoted wife. Sarah, what you've told me is actually Hilchos. There was really no to'elis in your reporting it to me, and I am not permitted to believe it. Even if your report is true, what can I do about it? Badmouth Feingold in return? All that would accomplish would be to create a real machlokas. Besides, what we earn is decreed from heaven on Rosh Hashanah. No one can deprive me of what is destined for me by speaking badly about my merchandise. Chaim, look, I understand that I should not have reported it to you, but I'll be more careful in the future. But how can you not believe it's true? I'm your wife, and I'm telling you that I heard it myself. Are you suggesting that I'm a liar? Well, there are many ways that I can reject your report without accusing you of lying. You may have misunderstood something that Feingold said. You may have imagined that what he said was worse than it actually was. And even if your report is accurate, not once did he mention me by name. Perhaps there was some other donut company which he was referring. As the Chafetz Chaim notes, one cannot accept Hilchos as fact even when it is related to him by someone whom he trusts implicitly, such as his father, mother, wife. In Ber Mayim Chaim, he comments that it is common for even sincere, God-fearing people to exaggerate or to omit certain details when relating a story. Perhaps that might help to convey an altogether different picture of what happened. Again, in a nutshell, one cannot believe Hilchos even when it is related by someone he trusts implicitly. Have a wonderful day.